A building block is anything you can select within your document that you want to save a copy of, so that later on you can reuse it and insert it into another document. That can be really helpful, right? Because let's say that I got my lemon essential oil image here, also the title, and then the website that you can purchase my essential oils from, and I want to be able to include that in all my monthly newsletters. So somebody creates a newsletter, instead of me taking that newsletter and recreating this, I can go ahead and just select it here, save it once as a building block, and then just insert it over and over again into all the other documents or newsletters that we create throughout the year. Pretty cool. So to go ahead and save this as a building block, which by the way, what is a building block? Well, it's something that you're building with blocks of what? Well, this is one block, the image, the other block is the title, and then the website. You get the idea, right? Okay, let's go ahead and click and drag to select it. Now notice that when I select it, I not only select the image and also the text here, but the extra paragraphs, that will be saved into your building block. So when you insert this building block that you just saved into another document, it'll also add the extra line above and the lines below, whatever you have selected, so be careful. And so I'm thinking, I don't want those extra paragraphs, so let me come up here on the Home tab to the Paragraph group, click on my Show Hide Codes so I can see exactly what I'm working with here. So I have this paragraph above, then I have a paragraph, and within the paragraph is the title and the image. So let me go ahead and click just to the left of it so I'm on the same line as that second paragraph marker. Then I'll click and drag over to the right so I can select the image and the title, and then go down one so I can select the second paragraph marker, and what's included there is the web link. And then I'll come up here and turn off the codes. Okay, that looks good. So I just want to save that and not the extra paragraph above or below it. Now to save it as a building block, come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group. Now you're thinking, wait, we're not inserting. Well, you have to go this route to be able to click on the Quick Parts drop-down arrow and to save your selection. Now it says that you can save your selection to the Quick Part Gallery, and this is the Quick Parts, right? The Quick Parts contains the building blocks or the organizer, and so what that means is that it allows us to go ahead into the organizer and edit and delete our building block, but first we have to save it. So we save the selection, but again it's talking about to the Quick Parts Gallery. Well, the Quick Parts here is when you click on the drop-down arrow. What's the gallery? Well, when you click on the text box, the drop-down arrow, you see a gallery of built-in templates. A gallery, think of it this way, when you go to a museum, you see all those different pictures. That's a gallery of pictures that you see at the museum. So you got a gallery of pictures that you see here, or text boxes that you get a preview before you actually select it, click on it to insert it. Okay, so that's what it means here when you click on the Quick Parts drop-down arrow. That when you save a selection, it'll also, if you'd like, and I'll show you how to change it, as a gallery image within the Quick Parts drop-down arrow. Now keep in mind, you may not be able to easily remember this, that hey, I want to save it as a building block. Let me look up here on the ribbon to find a building block. Again, it's under the Quick Parts. And when you hover over Quick Parts, it tells you the purpose of it is to insert reusable pieces of content, and that's exactly what a building block is. So when you click on it, it's sitting right there. But you also have other Quick Parts you can insert as well, which we'll discuss in just a minute. So building blocks is a part of the Quick Parts, but before we can go ahead again and work with building blocks and make changes to it, we have to save it first. Click on Save, it opens it up, and again there it is, the gallery. It wants to save it to the Quick Part Gallery. Remember how I talked about the text box gallery? You can actually click on the drop down arrow and save it to the text box's gallery, if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it and click off and save it to the Quick Parts Gallery so we can see what it looks like when I'm done here. And what's the name? We'll call it the Lemon. The Lemon Essential Oil Image Hidden. Well, you can only type in so much for the name here, and then it stops you, so that's as far as I can go. Quick Parts Gallery, what category do we want to save it to? General, or do you want to click on the drop-down arrow and create a new one? Call it Essential Oils and click OK, because maybe later on, next year I change it from lemon to lavender, but I want to keep track of the original building block that I saved, so that's why I named it Lemon under the category Essential Oils. So next year I can go ahead and have a lavender essential oil bottle and save it as lavender, but under the category Essential Oils, so I can have many under one category that's all about essential oils. Okay, you can go ahead and type in a description that this is a lemon oil image with heading and website link. Okay, you can save it in the default building blocks or the normal document template. I recommend the building blocks, and then the options is you can insert content only, or you can insert the content into its own paragraph, or insert the content into its own page, so it gets its entire page. Well, I just want to insert the content only, nothing extra. When I'm finished, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and it does a couple of things. One is that I saved it to the Quick Parts gallery, and just like when you click on the text box drop down arrow, you get a gallery of different text boxes, built-in templates you can choose from. Well, click on the Quick Parts and boom, hey, oh, that's cool. You get an image of the building block that we just saved that you can go ahead and click on it to insert it. I mean, it can't squeeze everything into it, but it squeezes just enough so you can get an idea of what you're about to insert here. So let me click off in a blank area, go File, come down to New, and let's create a new blank document. Double click, and then let's go back up to the Insert tab, to the text group, click on Quick Parts. Oh, that's so cool. Go ahead and click on it to insert it, and hey, that's easy, isn't it? That saves a lot of time, so I don't have to insert the image again, recreate the title, and then type in the website link. Just go ahead and do it once, save it as a building block, and then any other documents that you want to insert it into, it's right under there in the Quick Parts gallery. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this document, not save it, and go back to my original here. Now if you want to make some modifications to your building block, well, just come up here on the Insert tab to the text group, click on the Quick Parts, and you can either right click if you have it in the gallery, that is, and notice when I right click you have other insert options than just clicking on it. You can insert it at the page footer, insert it at the beginning of a section. In any case, you can come down here, click on Edit Properties. It brings up the Modify Building Block window, in which case you can go ahead, type in a new name, put it in another gallery category. Let me go ahead and click Cancel. Or you can come back up here, click on the drop down arrow, right click on it again, and go down to Organize and Delete. Click on that. Brings up the Building Blocks Organizer. Now automatically it has mine selected, but if you can't see it, let me go ahead and click off, and you're like, let me scroll to the top. Where is it? Well, if you remember the name that you gave it, go ahead and click on the header bar to sort it, and it sorts it ascendingly for that column. I can scroll down to the L's, and there it is, Lemon Essential. Select it, and you can see the preview of it over here. I can go ahead and click on Edit Properties, brings up the same window, or I can delete it, close out, or click on the drop down arrow. This Building Block Organizer brings up the same window that you can go ahead and scroll down, select it, edit the properties, or delete it. Now, the only thing that you're not able to do is to go ahead and actually modify the building block itself, only the properties. So if I want to go ahead and modify the building block itself, like let's say I want to include the paragraph above, when I click and drag and select it, and include the extra lines down below, then what I have to do is when I save it, Insert tab to Text Group, click on the drop down arrow to save selection, I have to type in the exact same name as the original one that I just saved to overwrite it. So the only way you can modify it is to go ahead and reselect what you want and then to overwrite the original. So I have to have the same name. Also have to have it in the same gallery, Quick Parts, and also the same category, Essential Oils. Click OK. It says, do you want to redefine the building block entry? Basically override it. We can say yes, and now it includes the extra paragraph above and the two down below. Cool, okay. And then with the modifications as far as the properties go, click on the drop down arrow, and you can go to the Building Block Organizer again, and you can sort it by name, or you can sort it by category. Click on that and scroll down and find it. And there it is, Essential Oils. So if I had other building blocks with the same category, they'd be grouped together, essential oils like general, and so on. In any case, you can select it, click on Edit Properties. Instead of having it in the Quick Parts gallery, I can change it and, like I said, put it in the text boxes gallery, which is fine. Or if I don't want to put it in the gallery, click on the drop down arrow and choose, Custom 1. What is Custom 1? Well, whatever you want it to be. Basically, I haven't found a gallery in Word yet that shows all the custom galleries here. In any case, select it, click OK. You sure you want to redefine it? Say yes. And it's in the Gallery Custom here. Click on that to sort it, and then scroll down. There it is, Custom 1. So when I close out and I click on the Quick Parts drop down arrow, it's not in that gallery, but it's sitting there as a building block here for me to go ahead and make changes to it by scrolling down, select it, and editing the properties. And like I said, edit. I know you're just tempting me to select another gallery. Text boxes, click OK. Redefine it, yes, close out. Text boxes, click on the drop down arrow. Scroll down to, it's alphabetical, the L's then the M's, and it's right there. So, hey, pretty cool. Right click, and we can organize and delete, meaning that I can either make changes or finally delete it, say yes, and close out. It's no longer there. So I can't insert it from the text box gallery. Scroll down to the L's. It was the L before the M, and it's not there, so we've gotten rid of it. Okay, there are other building blocks you can choose from. Let me come down here and click on my Essential Oils document to bring that up so we can insert and see what the other building blocks look like and how it interacts with other text within the document here. Insert to text group, click on the Quick Parts drop down arrow, Building Blocks Organizer. Let me come over here and sort it by clicking on the column header here, name. And then I'm going to scroll down to the P's here. And let's take a look at Puzzle Sidebar. So there's the building block. When I insert it, you can get a preview of what it's going to insert here. Big huge text box with some text down below. Click on Insert, and wow, that's kind of cool as far as the color goes. Then I can go ahead and of course type in the text box there, whatever text that I want to type in it. So if you have time and you want to go through all those other building blocks to see what they are, what they can insert, extra text boxes, different types of text boxes, and even page numbers, which is something that we learned how to do in our headers and footers training video. But you can also find a fancy page number within the building blocks as well, in any case. Now this is going to be a bit of a continuation on from the two previous training videos on building blocks, in that when we wanted to go ahead and save something as a building block, we selected it, came up here on the Insert tab to the text group, clicked on the Quick Parts drop down arrow. We worked with these two right here. First we saved it, and then we went to the organizer to either edit the properties of the building block or delete it. We didn't talk about the other three up above in the Quick Parts menu, the AutoText document property and field. First of all, the AutoText. Let's go ahead and hover over that, and you'll see that I've got some that are already there, like the name of my company, Dreamforce. And what AutoText does is that when I go ahead and click on it, it automatically inserts the text. Cool. Well, how do I go ahead and create my own text to automatically be inserted? Well, before you buy yet, let me sell you on another point with the AutoText. Let me hit Enter. You don't have to actually go in the Quick Parts menu to insert the AutoText. You can just simply type in the first couple letters of the AutoText, and it gives you that little prompt, and it says, okay, all you have to do after you type in the first few letters is just hit Enter, and I'll go ahead and type in the rest for you. Hit Enter, and boom, there you go. Okay. Are you ready to buy now? Wait, I'll throw in some Ginsu knives. No, let's go ahead and learn how to do this. So what I need to do is just like creating a building block. Just go ahead and type in whatever text that you want to have automatically inserted after you type in the first couple letters. Like, let's try Spiffy Stories. Sounds spiffy to me. Let's go ahead and select it. And then you want to save it as a building block, again by coming up here to the text group, clicking on the Quick Parts, saving your selection, and then instead of saving it in the Quick Parts gallery, it has to be saved in the AutoText gallery or with the AutoText format. So when I select it, click OK, and I hit Enter, and I type in the first couple letters, Spiff. Oh, there we go. Just hit Enter and automatically inserts it. Let me go ahead and hit Enter again, and it's also available up here in the Quick Parts gallery, the AutoText. And then scroll down and, ooh, Spiffy Stories. That's so fun. Now if I want to go ahead and get rid of that, you know how to do that. Just click on the drop down arrow, go to the Building Blocks Organizer, and there's Spiffy Stories. If you don't see it there, then go ahead and sort it by name. If you remember the name of it, and then it's alphabetical, then select Spiffy Stories and go ahead and delete it. And then say yes and close out. And now when I type in the first couple letters, Spiff, well, it's not coming up. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and click on the Quick Parts drop-down arrow as the document property. Now we haven't covered the properties of a document yet, but basically there's a place you can go where you can add some keywords that describe what the document's about. I mean, you've got the title within the document, but these are things like who worked on the document, the author, the manager, the company name, the company address. All those are found in the properties. Where are the properties? We'll go over this a bit more in detail in level 3, but let me click off to show you. Click on the File tab, go to Info, come over to the right-hand side, and there we go. There's the properties here. You can see that all the properties are being displayed, well, most of them. You can see that there's the hyperlink, the company name, the author, that's me, Kurt Kershaw. You can also click on the Properties drop-down arrow and go to Advanced Properties. Shows you a lot more than what you can see over here, either on the General tab, Summary, Statistics. Like I said, I'll go over this in level 3. Type in the title, the subject, the author. In any case, you get the idea. Click Cancel. Let me click on the Home tab so it takes me back to where I last left off, the Insert tab. Come over here, click on the Quick Parts, go to Document Properties. Oops, let me go ahead and hit Enter a couple of times, then click on it again. That way I don't insert it next to something. Document Property, remember, I'm the author, Kurt Kershaw. Go ahead and select it, and it inserts my name. But also it has it tagged, because this is a dynamic field in that if I go into the properties and say, okay, I'm no longer the author, it'll update this and say, well, whoever I typed in the properties here under the File tab, it'll have their name displayed there instead. When I click off of it, you can't tell the difference, right? Only when you click inside of it, okay? Let me go ahead and click outside of it, hit enter a couple of times, and then finally the quick parts field. Go ahead and select it. You get a list of all these fields, so many that obviously I'm not going to cover them all, but to give you an idea what this is about, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down because it's sorted alphabetically. Let's go to the date, and then over here what kind of date format do I want to insert, numerically or have it spelled out. Go ahead and select that, and then click OK. It inserts it, and then notice when I click back in here, the date field is dynamic. In that you can go ahead and have it updated. When you hover over it, you see the shortcut key F9. When you hit that, it'll go ahead and update it to, well, today's Friday. If it's tomorrow, then hit F9, it'll update it to Saturday, February 4th. When I click outside of it again, you can't tell the difference, whether it's a dynamic field or static field. You can also right-click on it and choose the update field, and it'll update it to today's date, or you can right-click on it and go to the edit field and then choose a different format, like let's do time. Okay, click okie dokie, and then right-click on it. It says it's 10, 11, and 35 seconds. Go to the update field. Now it's 10, 11, and 44 seconds. So the paragraph controls are controls you can use to take controls of your paragraphs as they bridge the gap in between two pages. For example, at the bottom of the first page, I have the first line of my paragraph, and because I can't fit the rest of the paragraph at the bottom of the first page, it spills over into the top of the next page. If I want to control that so it doesn't split like that, well, instead of using a paragraph control, I could come up here, click before it, hit enter, and add an extra line to push it down to the top of the next page. But the problem that you potentially run into is that if I come up here on the first page and add more text here so it pushes this paragraph down and these two lines to the top of the next page, then I have those two blank lines in between that paragraph and this paragraph, and that looks odd. So instead of doing it that way, let me go ahead and hit undo. I can use one of the paragraph controls. Let me right click within the paragraph and go down to paragraph. Come up here, click on line and page breaks tab, and I'm going to be going over these four controls in the pagination section. First of all, the widow and orphan. The definition of a widow or orphan is that, well, for the orphan, it's the first line of the paragraph by itself at the bottom of a page. So here I have a lonely line in the paragraph at the bottom of this page. That's an orphan. To reverse that, let me go ahead and delete some text above. I'll undo it later. Is that if I have the last line of the paragraph at the top of the next page, then that's known as a widow. In other words, Microsoft sees this as you having a line by itself either at the top of the next page or at the bottom of the first page as something that probably isn't really helpful to the reader, because if I read at the bottom of this page the part of the sentence here, and when he does, how does God respond in, and then I go to the top of the next page and I'm like, what did I just read again? I can't simply go back here. I have to go to the bottom of the first page and then to gather my thoughts again, and then come back here, and hopefully I flip the page fast enough to continue on with that thought. So instead of having a single line by itself, to overcome the widow or orphan issue, it requires two or more lines, because usually within two lines you typically have a complete sentence, or at least enough text to gather some sort of idea of what you're reading about without having to flip back and forth between the pages here. So let me go ahead and right click within the paragraph, go down to paragraph, and check the box widow/orphan control. Now when you check it, it can detect whether you have an orphan or a widow. And because the last line of the paragraph is at the top of the next page, it's the widow. So when I click OK, what it does is it says, okay, I don't want it by itself, so I'll take the next line of the paragraph at the bottom of the first page and bump it down. Okay, so that's why it's easier when I transition from here to here. And if I forget part of it, I can continue on, and chances are I'll pick up and have an idea of what I'm reading without flipping back to the next page. And then let me go ahead and hit undo. And hit undo again. So now we have the first line of the paragraph by itself at the bottom, which is the orphan. Right click, go to paragraph, check the same box, it'll know what to do, click OK, and because it can't take the next line and cram it up here because there's not enough space, it just decides, okay, we'll just take this line and put it over to the top of the next page, and coincidentally the whole paragraph's together. Okay, let me go ahead and hit undo. Okay, for the next example, let me go ahead and turn on my codes, come up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group, click on the Show Hide Codes. And let me go ahead and hit enter and type in just any text. Now the next example, the paragraph control, is that if you want to keep one paragraph with the next paragraph so it doesn't split like this, then go ahead, I'm going to right click in this first paragraph, go down to paragraph and check here, keep with the next paragraph, keep this paragraph with the next one. Click OK, pushes it down, you get your code here, this little square that says something's going on with this paragraph. And we know that it's keeping this paragraph with the next one. So anytime it wants to split, it won't between these two paragraphs because they'll be kept together. Okay, let me go ahead and hit undo. And let me go ahead and delete this here. The next control, let me right click and go back to paragraph, is to keep lines together. When I check that, it's going to keep this line with the next line. I'm not talking about widow or orphan controls. It just says, okay, within this paragraph, you want to keep this line with the next one. Go ahead and check it, click OK, and it bumps it down. There's the code that says, hey, something's going on with this paragraph. It uses the same code that's square, and the only way that you can find out what's being applied to it is right-clicking within the paragraph, going to the paragraph and seeing which box is checked, keep with next or keep lines together, okay? Then I can go ahead and uncheck that, click OK, and it removes that control. And then finally, you have the page break before, meaning that this paragraph, if it ever splits, I always want the page to break before it. So if I go ahead and right-click, go down to paragraph and check, put a page break before it, click OK, it breaks it and dumps it onto the next page. In fact, let me scroll down here and try another one. How about this is Glenn? Right-click that title, go to paragraph, say page break before and click OK. So what's interesting is that you see the text above. If I go ahead and I click before it and I hit enter because I want to be able to type some more text, remember the code that's tied to this paragraph says that it can't have anything before it. Right within that paragraph, it's got to do a page break before. So when I hit enter, it actually added another break, the page break here, in addition to the one at the bottom of this page here. So let me go ahead and hit undo, and because I don't like page breaking before like that, at least if it doesn't make sense. But it does if I have a title here where I don't want this at the bottom of any page or in the middle of any page. I always want that to be at the top of the next page. Before I talk about section breaks, I want to go over page breaks, so that way you can compare and contrast between the two and know that there is a difference. As you recall, when you start typing on the first page here and you get to the bottom and you run out of room, if you just keep on typing, it'll automatically insert a page break and give you page 2. And you keep on typing, inserts the next page break, automatically you get page 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Or you can manually insert a page break yourself, like just go ahead and put your cursor somewhere where you want to go ahead and insert a break. So I have 2 pages. You can see that down in the status bar, page 2 of 2 that I'm on. And if I insert a page break here, because it can't take oregano and squish it back up onto page 1 because there's no more room, that will be on the second page, and then everything at the point of this cursor on down will be on page 3. So come up here, click on the page layout, go to page setup, click on the breaks, and there it is, page break. Of course, we have page breaks and section breaks, but let's do a simple page break, and boom, there we go. Down here in the status bar, we have 3 pages. There's page 3, there's page 2, and page 1. I'm going to go ahead and undo that now. You can see the page break, that big wide gap between page 1 and 2, that when you double click on it, closes the gap, gets rid of all that extra white space, so it's easier to transition when you're reading from the bottom of page 1 to page 2 and so on. So now that you know what a page break is, and you can actually see the break in between your pages, what about section breaks? Let's come up here, click on the breaks drop-down arrow, and the 2 that I want to cover here are next page and continuous, because the even and odd pages, basically I covered that in our headers and footer training videos, but you can also insert them here. Let me give you the idea or the concept behind our section breaks first. First of all, we have the continuous break. You can see on that page where you have blue lines here and then red lines down below. A continuous break means that when you apply formatting to that section above the section break, it won't affect the point from that section on, or vice versa. So let me go ahead and click off in a blank area and show you. Let's say that I want to go ahead and add 2 columns to my bulleted list here. If I go ahead and click within the bulleted list and come up here and click on the columns drop-down arrow and select 2, guess what? My entire document is in 2 columns. No, I don't want that. So instead, let me go ahead and hit undo, and I want to be able to section this off, saying, okay, let me insert a section break here by coming up here, clicking on the breaks drop-down arrow, and say continuous. When I insert it, it doesn't actually put in a break that you can see. If you want to see it, then you have to go to your Home tab to the paragraph group, click on your Show Hide Codes, and you can barely see it over there because it's being squished by all the other text. If I go ahead and delete the text here, you can see that it's there. It just opens up and it says, okay, this is a section break. Let me go ahead and undo that. But it's still there. In fact, there are times when it's so squishy, you cannot even see if you inserted a section break. Let me go ahead and hit undo. So how do you know what section you're in after you insert the section break? How can you see? Well, if you come down here on the status bar and right click and check section, and then click off, when it's checked, you can see I'm in section 1. When I click below the line there, the code, you can see I'm in section 2. But what if the code cannot be seen and you want to go to section 2, but you can't figure out when you keep clicking down where it's at, and it keeps on saying section 1. Well, if you have 5,000 pages, boy, that's a lot of work. what you can do is hit the F5 key on the keyboard, go to the Go To tab, select Section, and you can see that the section number, well, I previously was working with this, it remembered it. So you can see I'm in Section 2 right now, type in Section 1, click Go To, and boom, it takes me right to it. You can see it now says Section 1. So that's one way to get around it. Let me go ahead and scroll down, click below that section break, and let me go ahead and apply my 2 columns. Come up here, Page Layout tab, select the columns, go to 2, and it applied it to everything below that section break, not above, because those aren't in 2 columns, it's a single column. But when I scroll down, it applied it to everything from that point on all the way to the end of the document. Well, I don't want my closing paragraph to be in a column, so what I need to do, let me go ahead and undo that. I still have my original section break. Let me scroll down and section this off. That being the key word, you're sectioning off parts of your document here, so what you do in one section doesn't affect the other. So now I have the first section break above the bulleted list. Now I'm going to close it off with another section break. Come up here, click on Breaks, go down to Continuous, and you can see it adds it right there. It's not squished, so we can obviously see that it's inserted right there. So now I have 2 section breaks and 3 sections. So you can see that I'm in Section 3 right here, below the second section break. Click above it, I'm in Section 2, click above the first section break, and I'll be in Section 1. So in the middle between those 2 section breaks are my bulleted list. So let me go ahead and click on Columns, go down to 2, and it only affects the Section 2, not what's above in Section 1, nor what's below in Section 3. Awesome. Now the only difference between that and when I click on Breaks and a Next Page Break, well, the next page gives you a new page just like you're inserting a page break, right? But it also says, okay, at the top of that new page, I'll section it off. I mean, you can do that. You can just go ahead and go to the top of a new page and insert a continuous. Or if you know you're going to be creating a new page and you want the top automatically sectioned off for you of the next page, then do it this way. It hits 2 birds with 1 stone. Gives you a new page and it sections off the top of that next page, okay? Let me click off, and then to go ahead and delete your section breaks, you have to go ahead and find them, which good luck if you can't see them there. And you see how I clicked, so my cursor's flashing in front of it. Hit the delete key and it deletes it, and now it's back to a single column here. I still have my section break here, but it undid my 2 columns as well as deleting that section break. So let me go ahead and hit undo because I want to put it back to the way it was. So now I can move on to the next part of the training video, and that's the column here, or columns. I'm looking at this column right here, and you see how I have a paragraph code there, and that first bullet is not aligned with the second bullet in the second column. Well, in fact, how does this work? At the bottom of page 1, the column starts off, and then it scrolls over to the top of page 2, and then it flows over to the top of page 1 in the third column, and then it flows over what it can't fit there to the top of the fourth column on the same page. So if I want to come up here, okay, and click before clove and hit enter, notice when I hit enter, it's actually continuing on the first column. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push this bullet point down so I can have the same amount of space as, well, as the paragraph code gives me from this first bulleted point to the paragraph above it. So what I can do instead, let me go ahead and hit undo, is click after the first column here and insert a column break. So if I come up here on the Page Layout tab to the breaks and go down to column, it inserts a column break, and there we go. This column is now broken off from the second column here, so that's why we now get a new paragraph code. So you can see that it's even Steven here. We've got 2 paragraph codes, both the first bulleted points in the first column and the second column line up, and it looks fancy. So I can come down here and watch what happens when I hit enter and I start typing, hit enter and I start typing, hit enter and I start typing. Because that's still part of the column here, it's going to flow over into the top of the second column. It's not going over and spilling over into that column because we have the column break. It just actually pushes that column over and flows into the third column at the top of the second page. Unless, of course, I want to go ahead and break that off as well, so it has its own column and it pushes everything over as well. So I can go ahead and hit undo a couple of times there really fast. So I'm back to my column break there. And then I can go ahead at the bottom of this and insert a column break. Whoops. With all these codes turned on, I missed this bulleted point here. I don't want that bulleted point to be there, so let me go ahead and hit the backspace so I just have my paragraph marker. And then come back down here and insert another column break. So when I insert that, it separates this column off from that column. So at the top of the next page, we've got a hard return. And then I can do the same thing to this column, come down at the bottom of that, insert another column break, and there we go. That's how I can get those paragraphs at the top of each one. So when I start typing again and hitting enter and hitting enter, it pushes that column over, spills over, but it doesn't flow into that second column because of the break. It got pushed over. Oops, let me scroll to the top of the second page. Okay, so there's the second column, and because that's broken off from the third column, that's got its own. It doesn't continue on now. Otherwise, the lemongrass would be right below lemon. So you see how those column breaks can separate, well, bulleted points, but also text, so it doesn't flow together, but actually breaks them off. That can be very helpful, especially if you want to go ahead and emphasize certain parts of the column by having it broken off from other parts of the column here with a column break. So when I come up here on the Home tab to turn off my codes, which is really helpful because looking at all those codes is annoying, you can see, oh, this part of the column is completely separate from that part. So whether I have more text I can keep typing and add it, or I don't have hardly any, this other column doesn't look at that column and get jealous and say, hey, you've got all this extra space, let me come over. It can't because we added a column break. Okay. And then of course, when I turn them on, it's the only way to see the column break codes. Go ahead and select it, hit delete. Now it says, hey, we no longer have a border here. Welcome. You can come over here and invade our territory. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Now there's other options with your columns here by coming up here on the Page Layout tab, going to the Columns drop-down arrow. You can do 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. You can do left, right. You can have more columns, get more choices, where instead of the defaults here of 3, you can actually scroll this up to 5, 10, 20. I'm not sure how many you can go ahead and max out at. And then with your columns, you have the width of each column, which is the total for the 2 columns, 6 inches. So we have 3 inches over here, 3 inches over here, and then we have spacing in between the columns, 1/2 inch. You can see the preview window over here that if I increase that, it shows you how it's going to start collapsing the width of each column. So we have 2.7 now inches for each column with a 1.1 inch spacing in between the two. And I can go ahead and click OK, and you see how it just gives me more spacing in between the columns. Let's go back up here, click on the drop down arrow, more columns. You can also put a line in between your columns if that helps, and you can have equal column width, or you can go ahead and uncheck that and say for column 1 I want it to be 2.7, but for column 2 I want 4 inches. Of course, when you do that, you may want to work with your spacing. So if I do 3.5, hit the tab key, it collapses the spacing. So I have one column smaller, the other column bigger, or again make them equal. And then do you want to apply it to this section, this point forward, or the whole document? Well, what's the point in applying it to the whole document if I have section breaks, because I just want in this section to have my columns applied to, well, these bulleted points. So I'll just go ahead and click off, leave it at this section, click okie dokie, and there's my line. Then let me come up here, click on the Home tab, turn off my codes so you can really see what it looks like. Now, assuming that you know how to create text boxes, if not, you want to watch my training video on it, I'm going to show you how you can link 2 or more text boxes together. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you read some magazine articles or newspaper articles or even newsletters, sometimes they have the main story here and then a text box over to the right-hand side that has, well, a different thought that kind of blends with the same thought here, but something that if you have an interest, you can read over here in that text box. And as you start reading, that text box will flow over into the second page. But if we don't link them together, then I have to copy the text, paste it so it exactly fits that first text box, and then go to the second page in the continuation of the text box and copy the rest of the article and try to paste it in there. But if you link it, just take all the text, paste it in that first text box, and you're done. Because if there's any left over, it'll spill over automatically because you link the 2 text boxes together into the second text box, or the third or the fourth text box, depending upon how many you want to link together. Okay. So let me go ahead and create the first text box. Come up here, click on the Insert tab to the text group, click on the text box drop down arrow. I'm going to draw it. Click on it. I get my black cross. I'm going to click and drag and draw it about yay big. Now, typically, in the articles that I've seen, they have it take up the whole right-hand side, but this should be good enough as an example. Once I have my text box there, I'm going to have the text wrap around it and not, well, be over it so you can't see the text. And then come up here on the Format tab to the Arrange group, click on the Wrap Text drop-down arrow, and let's do square. And then, of course, as you recall in the text box training video, you can hover over the border and click and drag it to move it around. I'll leave it right there. Okay, there's the first one. Scroll down to the second page, the continuation of that text box. Let's draw another one. And I don't have to go back to the Insert tab if I still have that other text box selected, because I can come up here on the Insert Shapes tab And there it is. Hover over it, draw a text box. Yes, I will. Thank you. Click on it. And then go ahead and click and drag. And I'm going to make this one a little bit meatier, okay? I think that's enough for the text that I want to add to the first text box and have it spill over into the second once I link it. If not, I can always adjust this second text box. Okay, let's go ahead and have this wrapped. Let me right-click on the border. Here's another way to wrap the text. Instead of going up to the Format tab, right-click, and in the shortcut menu, we've got wrap text as well. Let's do square. Okay, click off. Looks pretty good. All right. Let me go ahead and click and drag up to the top here, and let me add some text. Well, actually, it already has some text that I can add. Let me go to the next document here, and there it is. Right-click to copy it. Go back to my other document, click in the first text box, and Control-V as in Victor to paste it. You can see it cuts it off here. It doesn't delete it. It just shows that it can't fit all within that box. If I want to see more, then hover over the bottom handle here till you can see arrows pointing up and down, then click and drag, and then you can see more and more, but I don't want it that big. I want it about yay big. And then I want to have the rest of the text, once I link the two text boxes together, automatically spill over into the second text box, because right now they're not linked, so it's not spilling over. To link it, go back to the first text box, select it by clicking on the border, and then come up here to the text group, well, of course on the Format tab, click on Create Link, and then notice when I move my pointer down, I get a picture full of, what does it look like? Well, I can tell you, you can't see it here, but a bunch of letters, okay? And what's that saying is that you've got the rest of the letters that's overflowing from this text box, and where you're going to dump it? Well, it's going to be dumped into that text box. Now watch what happens to that picture. When I hover over it, it wants to dump all the letters, or the rest of the text, into this text box here. I can do that with a click, and boom, there we go. So it continues on. So let me prove it to you. Go back up here. And it says, well, in the quote, one of the most important men in America for this message today, David Barton, has found that when he looked in, well, you can see it flows over, okay, so it's not being cut off. Well, there's too much text to fit within this text box, so I can create a third one, link this one by selecting it, clicking on the border, and then clicking on Create Link, and then, taking the picture and clicking on that third text box. Or what I'm going to do here, because you already get the idea, is just stretch this open more until there's no more text that needs to be spilled over into the next text box. And I think it's right there. Looks good. Okay. Now watch what happens if I come back up here and I say, oh, I've got some more text, and I start typing. Notice how it automatically puts me down into the second text box because it couldn't squeeze any more into the first one. So in any case, they're linked. Let me go ahead and hit the undo button. And then, of course, don't forget, you can select your text boxes, change the colors, the styles, the formats, and scroll down here, work on that one as well. And then to break the link, I just go ahead and select the text, copy it if I want to reuse it, and paste it on the outside of the text box. Then, select the text box and delete it, and, well, it's no longer linked. Let me scroll back up. You can select the text box here, click on the Format tab, and then do it all over again. In fact, let me hover over the bottom part of it and drag it open, and you can see when the link is broken, it takes the text from that second text box and crams it all back up here into the first text box. So that way, you really didn't lose anything by deleting the text box, and you didn't have to take the text out of that second text box and copy it somewhere else, because once the link is broken, it crams the text all back into this first text box here. If you want to convert your document into a calendar, card, certificate, agenda, well, Microsoft Word does have some templates you can use, pre-formatted, so you can come up here, click on the File tab, go down to New. You probably noticed this by now, that whenever we created a new blank document, that is a template. I mean, it's a blank document. Well, you have other templates down below. You've got them for agendas, brochures and booklets, cards. Well, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and click on faxes. You got all these different faxes that you can work with. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one, Fax Cover Sheet, Professional Design. And because it's from the Office.com website, I have to download it. So come over here, click on the download button, give it a second or two, and boom, there it is. Pretty cool. And then with pretty much all the templates, all you have to do is go ahead and follow these text prompts, like typing your street address, click in there and start typing. And then the city, state, zip code, you get the idea. Company name, of course, is Dreamforce. And you can see it's my AutoText hit the Enter key and automatically inserts the text as we learned in the previous training video. And it says fax, who are we sending it to? Mr. Snuffleupagus, I guess. Hit the Tab key and it goes from the to the from. Hit the Tab key again, it goes after the from, and it's from me. Type in my name, it's AutoText, so if I just hit the Enter key, automatically inserts the rest of my name there. And then the fax number of the person who I'm sending it to, I'll just make up one. Hit the Tab key a couple of times, how many pages, including this page that we're faxing. So if I have 2 extra pages, including this page, I have a total of 3. Let me move my mouse, and then the phone number for Mr. Snuffleupagus. And then the date that we're sending it, go ahead and type in a date. And it's going to be today's date. And you can see it's AutoText for today's date, so just hit Enter and automatically inserts the rest of the date for today. What it's regarding, that's what RE stands for. We'll say essential oils. CC is to carbon copy somebody in on this so they receive a copy of this fax. We won't do that. And then you can mark it as urgent for review. Please comment. All you have to do is go ahead and type in an X there and say please comment. And then scroll down, finish it off. And for comments it says go ahead and select the text and delete over it or replace it with your own. I could go ahead and select the text for comments and say. And that's it. Once you're done, I would say be sure to save your work. That way, if you made a mistake, you don't have to recreate this. You just have to go back into it and make the changes. Like if I misspelled the name of Snuffleupagus, I don't know, I was making that up as I went along. Come up here, click on the Save button. Then go ahead and save it on the desktop here and call it My Fax to Snuffy. Click Save. And now because this was downloaded off the internet, it was created in an earlier version of Word, and so it tells me, it says you're about to save your document to one of the new file formats. Well, the newest one is what we're learning right now is Word 2010. You can see it's in compatibility mode. So it says the action will allow you to use the new features in Word but may cause changes in the layout of the document. So it may not be compatible, in other words, with the latest version of Microsoft Word 2010. Click Okie dokie, and it converted over into Word 2010, but it didn't seem like it had any formatting issues. I mean, I can't tell the difference. It looks good to me, so I got it saved, and if it all looks good, I can go ahead and print it off. Now before we go any further, it should be noted by definition what a template is. And a template is something that serves as a master or pattern from which other similar things can be made. So to create a template based upon what I have here, in other words, I want an original that contains my address, my company's name, and my name, because I've got a lot of people to fax to, and it's not always going to be the same person. So I want to get rid of those dynamic fields because they'll always be changing, but I have a template that I don't have to type in my address every time, my company's name, and my name, because it'll always be from me. So let me go ahead and clean this up a bit and finish entering in the rest of my address here before I save it as a template. Let's say I don't have a fax number for the field, just go ahead and delete it. Delete it again and it collapses. And let's see the web address for our website. And then these are the static fields I want to keep before I save it as a template. Again, my address, website, company's name, my name. These other fields contain dynamic information that will always be changing, so I want to go ahead and delete it, who it's to, their phone number. Maybe it's not always regarding essential oils, delete that. It may not always be the same amount of pages that I fax them and on the same date, today. And then please comment. Let me go ahead and copy this square and paste it over that X so I can choose something different the next time I fax somebody. And then delete the comments, and there we go. Now I can go ahead and save this as a template, so anytime I need to fax somebody in the future, I don't have to retype in my address, website, again the company name and my name, but just fill in the other fields. Saves me some time on data entry, okay? So to save it as a template, well, you can do it one of many ways, but I recommend one way, or one way that I like a lot, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the ways you can save it right off the bat is just to come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Save As, and just change it from a regular Word document to, clicking on the drop-down arrow, the Word template.dotx, not the earlier version, which is 97 through 2003, but the latest version, which is the Word template.dotx. Select that, and it allows you to save your template with that extension in any folder you want, which is fine, but Microsoft actually has a template folder that you can save it into. What's the benefit of doing that? Well, let me show you. If I go ahead and save it to my desktop, let me come over here, select desktop, and let me save it there. Okay, so I save it there. But if I want to save it into Microsoft's default template folder, then I have to come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Save As, brings up the same window. Scroll up to the top in the navigation pane, and I have to select the templates folder because obviously in order for me to save this template here into the Microsoft templates folder. Let me go ahead and give it another name, call it, and then click Save. Now what's the benefit from saving it in the Microsoft template folder? Well, for one, is that when you want to create a new template, because I saved it to that default Microsoft template folder, all I have to do is come up here, click on the File tab, go down to New, come over here, click on My Templates, and there it is, okay? Then all you have to do is go ahead and select it, and it says, what do you want to create? A new document based upon the template, or a new template based upon that template? By default, it's New Document. Go ahead and click Okie dokie. It opens up, and you can see in the title bar, it's a document, not a template. When I click Save, it's going to save it as a document, not a template. Sure, it looks like it wants to save it in the previous folder where I was last, and that's the templates folder, but I can come over here to the desktop, type in a name for it, and again, it's going to be a document, not a template. Go ahead and click Cancel. So that's the main reason why I like saving it in the Word template folder, so I can go ahead and click File to New and select My Templates, and it's right there, okay? Now remember, I also saved my template to the desktop. Let me go ahead and close out of here. I'm not going to save it. Let me close out of that, and there it is, the template on the desktop. Now when I double click and open it up, is it going to open up as a .docx file, the actual template, or is it going to open up as a copy of the template? Well, when I double click, it opens up as a copy of it, so that way I don't overwrite the original unless I intentionally want to do that. And you want to watch the next training video so I can show you how you can modify your template here and overwrite the original. It's really simple, but I want to keep it as two separate training videos in case if you're not interested in modifications and overwriting the original template at this time, but learning how to actually create a template. So let's go ahead and click Save. You can save this as a new document. Maybe it's going to be to George. This is my fax. Go ahead and click Save. Let's close out. So now I have my original template. When I double click, makes a copy of it. It's left untouched. And then when I close out, I have a copy of it that I saved it with George's information. Double click while I have to type in his information, to George and any other information that he has. Okay. In the previous training video, you recall that we created and saved our templates here, one on my desktop and one in the Word template folder, which is my personal favorite. When I want to save a template is to save it in there, and you can learn about that in the previous training video. But in any case, if I want to modify my template here, let me go ahead and open it up first, double click, and then make changes to it like, well, instead of Dreamforce, we're going to go ahead and type in what we sell here. And then when I'm finished, basically what I'm going to be doing is overwriting my original template. How do you do that? Well, you save over it by coming up here, clicking on the File tab, going down to Save As. And I want to go ahead and save it to my desktop because that's where I saved that template that we just saw, template 1. And to save it as a template, come down here and click the Save As Type, go down to Word Template. Now it shows any templates that are on my desktop. Go ahead and select the same name, okay, and then click Save. And if it gives you an error saying, look, we cannot give a document the same name as an open document, in other words, it won't let you overwrite it because it thinks that another copy of it's open, well, let me go ahead and click OK. And the reason why it's doing that is because, well, I really need to shut down and restart my computer. This happens from time to time, not all the time. Usually I'm able to overwrite it, but in any case, if I run into that problem, then here's what I can do to get around it. Let me go ahead and click down here and save this as template 2, okay. Click Save. Close out, and then come over here, right click, delete it and say yes, and then click and drag this over here, and then right click to rename it, and then change that from 2 to 1, hit enter, and there you go. Basically I overwrote my original template. That's how you modify it. And it's the same way when let me go ahead and open this up, when I want to go ahead and overwrite the template in the Word template folder, again, File, to Save As. Scroll up here to that template folder for Word, select it, then change it so it's going to be a Word template. Go ahead and select the name here so it's the same name down in the file name, click Save, and there we go. That's what it should be doing. If you want to go ahead and replace it with the changes that you've made here, say okie dokie, okay, Now let's go ahead and see if it updated those changes by clicking on File, going to New, selecting my templates, my Spiffy template, double click, and it's got essential oils. Okay, cool. Go ahead and close out. Oh, I didn't double click and open this up. Essential oils. Okay. A MacroButton field is a one text replacement field. In other words, you can go ahead and insert a MacroButton field that has the text of the prompt of what you'd like them to type there. I mean, if they don't get it, like who it's to, you can insert a MacroButton field that says, hey, type who this is going to be faxed to here. So that way, they select it in one click and just start typing and it overwrites it, okay? So if you'd like that prompt, go ahead and insert the MacroButton field. To do that, let me go ahead and click here as the example. Come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the Text group, click on the Quick Parts drop-down arrow, and go to Field. Brings up all the fields, scroll down, it's alphabetically here to MacroButton, select it, then come up here where it says Display Text and type in, something that tells them, hey, type in a name here of who you're sending it to. Whatever text you want, just go ahead and type it there. And that's going to be the display text. Click OK, and there you go. And then if you want to save this as your template so it's always there, then of course come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Save As, and as you recall, in the previous training videos, I saved my templates into two different places. One was on my desktop. Let me click on the drop-down arrow and select the Word template here, and it's on the desktop. Double click, and again it looks like it won't allow me to overwrite it until I restart my computer. So how about if we scroll up, go to my templates folder, and there we go. There's my templates folder here, and double click to replace that and click OK. Alright, let's take it for a test drive. Close out. So I have somebody I need to fax to, okay? So let me go ahead and open up my Word program, double click. Come up here, click on the File tab, because remember, let me come down to New. When I save it in the Word templates folder, it's actually being saved over here under my templates. Click on that, brings up the Word templates folder, and there it is, my Spiffy document. Double click. And there we go. Yo, type your name here. Oh, okay. So when I select it, in a single click, it selects the entire text. So if I type in, you can see it automatically overwrites it. And then when I'm done, I can go ahead and save it and then print it off and, fax it to George here. A mail merge is creating a form letter that you want to send multiple times but to different recipients. So for example, if I have a database of 1,000 customers that I want to send a thank you letter to, the same letter to all of them, all I have to do is create that letter once using the mail merge feature is insert the fields that I have within the database, like their first name, last name. I mean, if you're keeping track of your customers in a database, I don't know what database you use, don't you usually have a field for the first name, a field for the last name? That's all I'm doing here. Inserting the first name, last name, so it says Dear, if their first name is Bob and last name is Jones, it says Dear Bob Jones. And any other field that I can pull in from that database, like the number of training videos that they purchased. That way I can get more personable and say thank you for purchasing, and then it has that field there, 5, 6, 8 videos. So you can insert the fields, and then it'll merge the fields into that one letter. And if I have 1,000 customers, I have 1,000 records, Microsoft's mail merge will say, okay, go ahead and merge all those records into this one letter. In which case, because it's not going to insert it into one letter, it's going to create it 1,000 times, one for each customer in my database or one for each record, with their first name and last name and, well, any other fields that I decide to insert into my letter here. So to get started, let me show you that letter that I'm going to be using, and also the database that I have to pull my clients into my letter, their first name, last name. Let me minimize this down to the taskbar. Come up here, open up the exercises folder, and there it is, Clients Merge Letter. Let me double click to open it up. And there you go. Thank you for purchasing Online Video Trainer training videos. In any case, let's close out of that. And my clients I have stored in my workbook here. It's Microsoft Excel. If you don't know anything about Excel, then you want to watch my training videos. But it's my database in the Excel spreadsheet. Let me go ahead and double click to open it up. And I got a total of 3 clients. Isn't that fun? I've got Homer, Wilberforce. There's their first names, first name field, last name field, address, city, state, zip, and the total number of videos that they purchased from us. Now, I've got a gap in between these 2 customers and the third one down below. And the reason why is because in my training videos, I try to cover every possible error or problem that you could run into. In other words, if you don't keep your database tight and as clean, all your records together and not, these gaps, then I try to hit that in this training video here. But I do cover this in my Access database training videos or my Excel training videos, which is a dummy down version of Access when it comes to using it for database purposes. In any case, you can watch those videos, okay? Let me go ahead and close out. So those are the customers that I'm pulling in into this letter right here. Let me go ahead and open up Microsoft Word. And you're probably asking, hey, why don't you just go ahead and open up the letter and just insert those merge fields? Well, there's two ways to go about doing this when you start the mail merge wizard. That's going to ask you questions. You give it answers. Based upon those answers, it's going to go ahead and pull in the fields from the database into that letter. Well, when it comes to the letter, you can either create it by using the blank document, or if you have a letter out there, like I just showed you in my exercises folder down here, you can have that automatically pulled in as well. So I wanted to show you both ways, okay? In case if you didn't have one automatically created when you're diving into using the Mail Merge Wizard. So to start this, come up here, click on the Mailings tab, go to the Start Mail Merge group, and there it is, Start Your Mail Merge. Click on the drop-down arrow. Now you can do it for letters, email messages, envelopes, labels, a directory, or you can use Step-by-Step Mail Merge Wizard, which actually, when you use the wizard, gives you all these options here. Go ahead and click on it, opens up the task pane over to the right-hand side, and it says, okay, what type of document are you working on? Again, it lists it, as we just saw in the drop-down arrow. Is it going to be a letter, email message, envelopes, labels, directory? You go ahead and choose one. I'm going to do a letter, click Next, so we can go to step 2, and it says, okay, how do you want to set up your letters? Do you want to use the current document, start from a template, or start from an existing document? Now remember, I already have a letter out there. If I didn't, I can go ahead and just leave it there, use the current document, just type in a letter. Just go ahead and type in, dear, and then leave it open because I need to insert those fields that addresses the customers in my database dynamically. So it's a field that says, okay, pull in the first name, pull in the last name. In any case, let me go ahead and hit undo. So I'm not going to use the current document. I have one out there, so I'm going to start from an existing one that says, okay, when you select this, where is it? I'm going to go ahead and click Open. And it's on my desktop. You can see on my desktop. I can come over here in the navigation pane, select Desktop, and I'm already there. And it's in my Exercises folder. Double-click to open it up. And it's right there, the client's merge letter. Go ahead and select it, click Open, and it just pulls it right in, just as if you were typing, okay? So once I have my letter created or pulled in here, and I'm still on step 2 of 6, let's go ahead and go to the next step, which is to select my recipients. In other words, who's going to be getting this letter? Is it going to be one person, 2 persons, 3 or 4 or 5 or more? Now, I can either use an existing list, select from Outlook contacts, or type in a new list. If I go ahead and select Outlook contacts, then I choose a contacts folder, click on it, it opens up, and the default folder that I have is contacts. Go ahead and click OK, and it should pull those contacts in. Let me click Cancel. Or if you don't have Microsoft Outlook, by the way, if you do, you want to watch my training videos on Outlook. In any case, go ahead and select Type in a new list, and you can come down here and create it. When you click on Create, it gives you the default fields up here, like the title, Mr. or Mrs. I can type in Mr. and then just start typing, and then use the Tab key to go from one field to the next. And then when I need to go ahead and add a new record, come down here and say New Entry. And then just go ahead and keep typing, and you can scroll over to the right hand side and see all the fields here. Now if these aren't the fields that you want to use, and you have other fields that you want to go ahead and add to the entry, then just come down here and click on Customize Columns. You can go ahead and add, and if you want to type in, like let's say we're sending out a letter for people who purchased movie tickets from us, we can go ahead and say this is the number of movie ticket purchased, have a field for that, click Okie dokie, and then you can move your fields up and down. Like if these fields in the back you use a lot of, like the email address, go ahead and select it and click Move Up several times, to move it up so it's over to the far left hand side here. In the case we got movie tickets purchased there, let's click OK. We added it. There it is, movie tickets. Kurt purchased 3. Let me go ahead and say Shirley purchased 4. You get the idea. You can also delete the entry. I won't do that right now. But before I do that, let's go ahead and click Find. Let's say that I want to find, let's see if Kurt's in there somewhere. Click Find Next. Know how it jumps right to that entry right here, the record. Okay, found him. Click Cancel. We'll delete him. Are you sure? Yes, he's gone. Okay. In any case, I can go ahead and add all my records here. When I'm done, go ahead and click OK. And then it opens up and it says, okay, you added a bunch of records. I have to save it somewhere. I'm not going to save your database within the Word document. I'll link it to it so you can, pull the fields from your database. And this database that it's creating, it's going to be saved as an Access database, a .mdb. Now, if you don't know anything about Access, then you want to watch my Access training videos. But in any case, you don't really need to watch the Access training videos if you're going to keep it simple here. And all I'm doing is I'm just saving the records that I entered. Let's do it to my desktop and call it, and click Save. And it does two things. It actually saves my database to the desktop, and then it opens up and it shows me a list of all the people in the database. So that way, if I need to make any changes, come down here and select it, my customers.mdb, click Edit, brings up the window. I can go ahead and do a new entry, Mr. Hey, I purchased 5 tickets. It's me again, Kurt. Okay, you get the idea. Go ahead and click OK. Do you want to update your recipient and save the changes? Yes. Now let me go ahead and click OK, and let me minimize this down to the taskbar to show you that there's my database right there, okay? And there's the ghost of it. What that means is that when I'm working in the database, if it accidentally shuts down on me, it's got this as keeping track of the latest entries that I have. So it's like an auto recovery, okay? Once I close out of the database, this thing will disappear and I'll have my original file. This is basically, again, backup. Let me come back down here, click on it to restore it, but I'm not using this database here. I don't want to go ahead and create my own because I already have one out there and it's in Excel. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and select a different list. Come over here in the task pane, select it. It's on my desktop, it's in my exercises folder, and remember, it's my mailing list here that I have in Microsoft Excel, the workbook. Let's go ahead and select it, click open, and then it says, okay, within that workbook you have 3 worksheets. Your database is on which worksheet? Well, it's the first one, so it's automatically selected. Just click OK. It opens up, and there we go. Just like you saw not too long ago. We have my clients, Homer, Wilberforce, Doug, and then I have that empty row there that pulled in. All I have to do is go ahead and uncheck it, so when I'm done, it doesn't actually pull it into my letters here because we don't want to pull in somebody who's not there. That's what I'm saying, keep your databases clean. And if not, and you get a blank record, just uncheck it so it doesn't pull in. Now, you do have the data source down below that you can select here, and it's my mailing list, Excel workbook. Click on Edit, and you can create new entries here, but you can't delete them because, well, this is coming from the workbook. You can go ahead and find additional ones. You can't customize the columns. Again, we have that default database that's pulling it in. We didn't create it. Let's go ahead and click Cancel. You can also sort them by last name. Click on the last name column header, and it sorts them ascendingly here. H's down to the S's. Click on it again, and it sorts it just the opposite, descending from the lower end of the alphabet to the upper end here. You can also come down here and click on the sort arrow. And it brings up this window, and you can choose, do I want to sort it by last name or first name, ascending or descending, and then click OK if it's for first name. Then it sorts it by first name, so no longer last name, and it's ascending the D's before the H's, before the end of the alphabet here down in the W's. You also have these drop-down arrows you can click on. You can sort also here as well. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a rabbit here, so you can sort ascending, descending. You can also do some filters that say, hey, I just want to see Doug. So it filters everybody else out. How do you know it's filtered? Well, if you look up here on that little drop-down triangle, that's black. That's a light shade. So this is the column that's being filtered. Click on the drop-down arrow and say that you want to see all of them again. Okay. Or you can come down here and click on the filter option. Click and drag this so you can see it. And say for the field that we want to filter by will be the state. And it has to be equal to. Let's take a look. Who do we want to do? Let's say California, so we can type in CA. And click OK, and it filters everybody else out. When I scroll over, you can see that the state field is a light shade of blue, so that's the field that's being filtered. It doesn't delete the records, it just pulls in only those records that you want to see. So if I want to clear the filter, you can click on its corresponding drop-down arrow and say All, or you can click on the filter button again and say Clear All, click OK. We're back to where we started. So this is what I'm going to use, the list here. Again, I'll uncheck this blank record and just pull in Doug, Homer, and Wilberforce. Click OK. And now I have my recipients ready to go and merge those fields, like their first name and last name, into my document here. Okay, now that we have our recipients selected, well, a database that has our recipients in there, and it's my mailing list Excel workbook, we can come down here, go to the next step, which is to write our letter, click on it, and it says, okay, do you want to go ahead and insert an address block, something generic? When you click on it, it opens up, and it gives you a preview of one of the recipients in your database. This one's Homer Simpson. And it says, what kind of format do you want to display within the address block? Do you want their full name and any junior titles here, or do you just want their first name, like Homer? Okay. In any case, go ahead and select one of the formats. And then if there are fields, like an address to field, that's not being pulled in here, like their suite or something like that, then come down here and click on Match Fields. And it will have the address fields that are required and other fields down below, and you can see that what it's trying to do is it's trying to match up the fields that it sees within your database the field that it would see within the Word document. And so like I said, let me scroll down. If you have a second address field or a third address field and it can't match it because, well, it doesn't understand the name that you have in your database, like maybe my third address field in my database is called ADD and it can't match up the exact names here, then go ahead and select, ADD, whatever field that actually corresponds to the field that they have in here, because if it doesn't match, it's not going to pull. So make sure you go ahead and match up your field with the field that they have listed in here so it can be pulled, okay? And then go ahead and click OK. I'll click cancel, and let's see, I'm fine with this. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it inserts the address block. First name, last name, their address, city, state, and zip code. And if I want to see what it looks like, come up here on the Mailings tab to the Preview Results group, click on Preview, and it pulls it in to say, okay, once we merge those fields from the database into your letter here, this is what it's going to look like. And that's for, I think, record 3. You can come up here and you can see, there it is, record 3. You can go backwards and see what record 2 looks like. In case if you have one recipient that has a title and other information that's pulling that makes it really long and it needs more space, you may have to reformat your letter here. That's why it's probably good to go through a few of these. Let me go back. The first recipient was excluded because, well, that was a blank record. So that's why record number 1 isn't pulling. So that's why you see 2, 3, and 4. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and turn off the preview results, and we know what the address block looks like. We can go ahead and delete that, and instead you can do other things like dear, and you know how you have the first name or last name. Well, you can come up here on the Mailings tab to the right and Insert Fields group, and click on Insert a Merge Field, and there we go. All the fields that it can see within the database, which includes the first name, last name, address. Let's do first name, and then comma, because it's not going to insert that for us, and hit enter. So you've got the dear first name. Let's preview it. Dear Wilberforce. Let's go backwards. Dear Homer, Dear Doug. Okay, you get the idea. And then remember, within the database, we have other fields like the number of training videos that they purchased. So I can come down here and write it so it says, thank you for purchasing, X amount of training videos. Well, I don't know how many, so I want to insert that field from the database, which come back up here, find that field and its videos, select it, and notice that when I have the preview results still on, it shows it for Doug. He purchased a total of 5. Thank you for purchasing 5. Let me get rid of online because we do sell DVDs as well. Thank you for purchasing 5 video training videos, okay? And I can go forward, and Homer purchased 1, and Wilberforce purchased 2. That's pretty cool and pretty powerful. Really like that. Makes them feel special, like instead of dear customer or dear client, thank you for just purchasing something from us. This personalizes it so much more by having those merge fields and pulling in stuff that we can keep track of or that we have kept track of from our database. Okay, next. Now I can come up here with the preview results still on and go through recipients, go backwards and forwards just like you can up here. And you can actually search for a recipient. You can edit the recipients list, or you can exclude this recipient. So if I want to get rid of Homer, click exclude. And now how many recipients are going to be merged? Well, if I go backwards, it looks like I'm on recipient 2 and 4. Those are the only 2 because the first one, remember, is a blank record. And Homer was number 3, so just a total of 2 here. Or if I go, oops, I didn't mean to exclude him, go ahead and click on Edit Recipient List. And you can see how it unchecked Homer. Recheck him again, click Okie dokie, and hey, he's back, recipient 3. So let's go ahead and click Next. Now we can either go ahead and print it, or what I'd like to do is click on Edit Individual Letters, and the default is all, and click OK. And what that does is it opens up a new window, a Microsoft Word window with the generic title, Letters 1, and it has it addressed to each recipient, a total of 3. Dear Doug on the first page, Dear Homer second, and Dear Wilberforce on the third. That way, if I need to personalize it a bit more, something that I don't keep track of in their database, I can just come in here to their letter and say, hey, remember the time when we had a lot of donuts? And then just keep typing. That was fun. It was great. Hey, hope you buy more videos from us. Go ahead and click print, and that's it. Okay, and then I can just come up here, click on the file, go down to print, click print. I'm going to go ahead and click on file, close out of here, not save it. And I have my original merge letter here that I can go ahead and save. Click Save. Let me save it to my desktop and call it and click Save. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. Close out of my exercises folder. And there's my merge letter. Let me go ahead and double click and open it back up. And when I do, it says, hey, this merge letter is actually tied to a database. Data from that database will be placed into your document. Do you want to continue? So say yes to open it back up. And then that way I can come back up here to the Mailings tab, click on Start Mail Merge, go down to Step by Step, takes me to Step 3. So that way if I need to make any changes, thank goodness it's still tied to my database, the mailing list.xlsx. Edit the recipients here, go ahead and make whatever changes, and then just continue from Step 3, go to Step 4, insert your merge fields, and we already inserted ours, first name, videos, and then go next to preview them. Do you want to exclude anybody? If not, go ahead and click next. Either print them off or edit them individually. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.